Today's episode is brought to you by cattle. Every product launch faces a chicken and egg problem. You need reviews to convert, but you need conversions to get reviews. Cattle can help.
Cattle helps brands win share. They leverage their consumer panel for insights, collecting receipts, and driving product ratings and reviews. It is the largest daily active survey panel in Canada, with over 10,000 daily active users and over 100,000 monthly active users. Let cattle be your chicken and or your egg, depending on your perspective. Visit getcattle.com to learn more.
And then our son was born 6 years ago, Wilder, and you put a different set of sunglasses on, or just a different lens opens up for you, right? When you have kids, start thinking about the future, start thinking about, beyond, your lifespan and what you're leaving behind. And, one thing is, we felt good about being in the organic or natural food industry with ingredients of the snacks or any of the products that we were bringing to market, but everything was plastic.
Welcome to Hearts and Carts, the CPG podcast, the podcast about the people behind the products that are winning hearts and filling carts. This cast is for anyone with an interest in the world of consumer products. We're your hosts, Justin Osborne and Alex Hill, and our mission is to bring you weekly content that helps you be a better and more informed CPG professional.
Sorry, everyone. That is the sound of me enjoying snacks from our next guest on Hearts and Carts. Today, we've got Jeff Lahey, who is the co-founder and CEO of Humble Snacks. You know them for the Humble potato chips. We had his partner, Alicia, on previously, and one of our favorite guests, and just a product that we absolutely love. So this episode is what we're calling Two Guys and a Bunch of Chips. We're going to talk about chips. We're going to talk about his business, his experience. And unfortunately, Alex isn't here for this one, so you're stuck with just me. Luckily, Jeff is an amazing guest. Let's get to it. If you haven't already, remember to like, subscribe, follow us on social media. And here we go.
All in different shapes and flavors. Potato chips. What a perfect snack to savor. Potato chips.
Jeff, how are you?
Justin, I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. The video just came on. There you are.
Buddy, let me just plug in.
Sure.
Been out and about. How's the day for you?
Day's been great. Yeah, we got beautiful weather here, busy day, lots of meetings, but I've got a fun weekend planned. I'm going to Seattle with a buddy, so two of us are going on a bit of what's a nice way to say bender? I got like a couple days bender.
I think bender's a cute word, isn't it? I think it's nice.
I think that works, right? When you're getting older, there's less times you go out and do things like that. So we're just gonna go down there and see a baseball game and hit some breweries and kind of enjoy life a little bit.
Who are the Mariners playing?
Detroit. Oddly enough, they're playing the Jays next weekend. So we didn't plan that well. And they had the All-Star game last weekend.
Right.
So yeah.
Alicia and I have this just knack of catching the Jays almost I would say purely accidentally every time we would travel to the US. Been in New York, Chicago, Seattle, and every time the Jays would be in town. And we did not plan that whatsoever.
Really?
And it was almost to the point of there was a couple, down years many years ago where it's like, it'd be kind of nice to see someone else besides the Jays.
The Vernon Wells years and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Vernon Wells era. Exactly.
Yeah, late 90s and early 2000s. Basically like majority of my life.
Yeah.
They were really good when I was a child, and then they got good again as when I was in my 20s. So yeah, all those young years, they sucked. And I lived in Ontario, so I went to lots of games, and they're so much cheaper than a hockey game or a basketball game that you can go for $20. And back then you probably go for, they did Toonie Tuesday. Do you remember the Toonie Tuesdays?
Yes, I do remember Toonie Tuesday.
Yeah. So you used to do stuff like that, which, I lived outside the GTA, but it was so cheap that you go to 10 games a year.
Where did you grow up?
Like Kitchener, Waterloo.
Okay, so you're on that side. I was in Durham region. I was in Whitby and Oshawa. So we'd be taking the GO train in, young punks getting into mischief.
Exactly. But yeah, so great day, exciting weekend coming up. How about yourself? I'm talking too much. How about you?
Oh, good. Yeah, same here. We've been, it's always one thing or another going on. So we got a 6-year-old. So tonight was soccer. Saturday it's baseball or t-ball, and we've got some social plans as well. But nothing too exciting, I guess.
Yeah. I've got a 4-year-old, so I'm just a little bit behind you. So we haven't got to the age yet where he's doing like any sports or activities really, but even just like school and friend hangouts and things like that is already like the social calendar's packed for him.
Yeah, no, it's temptation is there to do it, right? Because school is all about structure and whatnot, and I think they do crave that structure. So giving them routine and something, but there's also lots to be said about just open, let them be creative and figure it out, and so we've got him in 2 sports this summer, and I think that's plenty for this age. But he seems to like it, so see how it goes.
Yeah, I didn't play a lot of winter sports growing up, and I played soccer when I was really young, but didn't really play much when I was older, and didn't play baseball. And I remember asking my dad, like, how come I never play baseball? And he said, well, because in the summer we wanted to do stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was a very, I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I get that. Yeah. Like weekends, right? Like, I'm like, okay, that seems fair.
Yeah. Alicia played competitive baseball, or I guess it would have been fast pitch growing up as well. So we talk about our childhoods we'd spent at Comfort Inn motels, for tournaments and whatnot. And it was like, I don't think we've been to a Comfort Inn in a little while, but then I remember with fond memories of spending many weekends and doing that with the ball teams. So or you go on a US road trip and get to stay at a bunch of hojos. Oh, right. Yes.
As well. So, but yeah, well, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking the time. Alex sends his apologies. He wishes he was here. I know that he bought chips in prep for this. He told me he ate a whole bag of the barbecue 2 days ago. So he was excited to tell you that. I've actually got apologies in advance to the listeners if I'm munching on chips throughout, but I've got a bunch here in front of me, and I've got competitive and I've got yours.
That's great.
And I guess your old company you worked for many years ago. I've got some Sun chips here, which I haven't had in a while, but they're great.
Which flavor?
Is it the Harvest Cheddar, I think?
Right. Okay.
Harvest Cheddar's the flavor.
Yeah.
I've got some Miss Vicky's barbecue.
Yeah.
And then I've got your original here. So I've got sort of all 3. And I think I've had all of your flavors now.
Including the honey mustard, because that one eludes people.
Yeah, so that is actually, you're right. I have not had the honey mustard yet. That was the one that Alex was talking about as well, that he recently tried and loved. So that's the one I am missing.
It is probably the most underappreciated flavor we have in our short tenure. It's in low distribution across the country. It does well where we have it in stores. Unit velocity per point of distribution is very high. And I think the honey mustard, just really shines on the potato chip. Yeah. So anyway, highly recommend our honey mustard.
Okay, that's the one that I got to get to. That's the one I got to get to. What do you got there in front of you?
But I don't want to be a homer about it because, that's about snacking, right? We talked about how we should talk about all snacks. And so I kind of went through a little bit of my childhood and kind of through the years. So this is Hawkins Cheesies out of Belleville, Ontario. It is the original cheesy, from, I have no idea when they invented this. The packaging probably is still the same design that when they launched it. My dad, I remember being a young boy, and my dad would eat these with reckless abandon. It was unbelievable. We eventually navigated to Cheeto Crunchy, which is also an incredible product, but there's a lot of nostalgia with us and the Hawkins Cheesies. Great product.
Well, and I guess you're, Belleville, not too far off from where you grew up either. So it's almost like it's a local brand.
I guess so. Yeah. Oddly enough, I think the majority of their business is in Western Canada. They do.
Interesting.
They do. They're gangbusters. Yeah. I think I saw that many years ago when I was looking at their Nielsen.
I haven't had any form of Cheesies or Cheetos or anything like that in a long time, but I do remember them being amazing.
It's close to my heart. When I worked at Frito-Lay, I took a plant tour in Cambridge, and I got to eat a Cheeto puff off the line. And listen, I don't consume many of those ingredients these days, but I will tell you, it was pretty close to heaven.
So
it tasted so good.
It's hilarious that you bring that up, because I mentioned you grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo. I worked at that Frito-Lay plant for 4 summers.
I think I saw that deep down on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, I worked there as at the end of high school, sort of, and beginning of university in the summers there. And I ate many Cheetos off the line and can confirm like it like melted in your mouth was the craziest thing I've ever eaten.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I don't know if they could ever bottle that up somehow and give people that experience of fresh off the line Cheeto puffs. Because
Yeah, it was very,
that would
very
be
different,
something.
but it's cool plant. Yeah, so yeah, chips is sort of in my background as well, and I've eaten way too many, but to your point, it's like now how do we get some of those flavors but maybe a little bit healthier?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so great segue actually, because I think my first introduction to natural
Mhm.
snacks was probably circa 2004. I was a large format merchandiser early in my career at Frito-Lay. And I remember all of a sudden these particular chips and this actual flavor. So this is Kettle brand, kettle cooked potato chips, yogurt and green onion. And they showed up like like right next to either the Miss Vicky's or the Lay's or whatever we were merching at Frito-Lay. And I was like, what is this brand? Where did this come from? Never had seen them before. And then there
Yeah.
was also a sign on the shelf that said, more flavors available in the natural food department, which also was, I was ignorant to that. I was like, what's the natural food department? What does that even mean? Anyway, I bought a bag, immediately fell in love. And I, again, had no idea what natural food meant at the time, what that was, but it was really kind of one of those, if I look back in the history of kind of me moving into natural food and particularly natural snacking, this was one of the first products that got me there.
I
So
love
yeah,
that.
kettle, yogurt, and green onion. Highly recommend. Still a great product. What else do I got? So yes, from my former employer,
Yes.
Pocky Nacho. It's so good. Honestly, like
They are good.
again, working at Frito-Lay, like Doritos is obviously like Hall of Fame worthy as far as, a chip is considered a product. And, when I worked there, like several competitors would come out and I won't name the brands, but like there was like, oh, this is a Dorito knockoff or a competitor to Doritos. And you taste it and it was like, oh, this is cardboard with some cheese
Yeah.
flavoring. Like there were some
Yeah.
bad products that were launched
Yeah.
that were trying to compete with Doritos. And so I interviewed with Amplify Snacks, which was basically Skinny Pop popcorn at that point,
Mhm.
and they had just acquired this brand called Pocky. I remember Mark Poirier, who was would be my boss after I got hired. He said, "Oh, we got this brand we just acquired. It's called Pocky, and it's gonna compete with Doritos." And I was kind of like rolling my eyes, like, "Oh
Not
man,
again.
I've seen this
Yeah.
before, right?" Anyway, so I said, "Okay, fantastic," and they flew me down to Austin, did the interview with the leadership team. They kind of basically gave me an offer on the spot, and I said, "Cool, like." Well, before I accept, I need to try this Pocky product that you guys keep talking about. And we opened a bag, and I was like, okay, the ingredients look fantastic, very clean, non-GMO, project verified. It's opened a bag, and I was like, okay, these guys are onto something.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And Skinny Pop was already on a rocket ship growth trajectory, and I thought, well, this Pocky brand is going to be next. I'm still a huge fan of the Pocky nut. And then I got little Neil Brothers, the Mexican corn chips. My God, so good, just so good. And kudos to them, organic ingredients, clean label, and amazing. And then this was my son's choice. It's humble potato chips, smoky barbecue. It's
New
good.
and new packaging as well.
And the new packaging, which is just hitting stores right about now. I bought this. I guess I can't say the retailer, but at my local grocery store, national chain grocery store.
At my local national chain grocery store. Like that. It helps narrow it down.
So anyway, one of the guys that was in front of Congress. We'll put it that way. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, smoky barbecue. Awesome. Yeah, man.
So, and is that your favorite? Is that your favorite of the humble snacks?
It is currently. And it wasn't when we launched the brands, but so we launched about a year and a half ago, and all the flavors have been truthfully a little bit of a work in progress. One thing we were conscious of when we developed these recipes was we wanted kind of a culinary flair. And, our brother-in-law, who's a Red Seal chef, Reiner out in Nova Scotia, he helped develop them. So there was a little bit of a chef's kiss to each of the recipes, but it was also a little bit lighter in sodium, lighter in sugar. We want to be a little bit erring on healthier product. And then, but there was, constant tweaks with the recipe, a little bit more coverage here, ups and downs as we went. And I think right now we've hit a sweet spot with our smoky barbecue. No pun intended. There's a little sweet, but it's good. It's good. It's got good coverage, and I'm feeling real good about it. So I have been eating a lot of smoky barbecue.
Yeah, your career, you sort of walk through some of the different roles you've had in companies you've worked for and products you've worked on. And like, I mean, you've must have consumed a ton of chips. I mean, you're working on a pretty fun category in terms of snacking.
You know, it's almost cliche that, that I started a chip brand, with my wife.
It's wild, yeah.
It's like, okay, you couldn't have done anything a little bit different, eh, Lahey? Like, worked at Frito-Lay 10 years, then Amplify and all the rest of it. But yeah, I've always loved snacks my whole life. Like I said, we were a very savory snack family growing up, Hawkins cheesies and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I remember being like a 12-year-old consuming baked Lays when they came out with it,
Really?
thinking, oh, this is a good product. And people think I'm crazy for saying that. But at the time, I thought, oh, it's nice. It's
Wasn't
different.
a fan of those. Yeah.
No.
Get them sometimes with like my sub at Subway as a kid and was like, these are not what I want.
I was always trying to discover new snacks.
Yeah.
That was, even to this day, I do love the discovery of and trying new flavor. Going to the US is a whole other, like treat in itself, right? Because you get all these other brands and products that we don't get in Canada. So yeah, but it really, like, I was kind of in between university, in between years. My best buddy had passed away. I was 21 years old. Took a year off school, didn't really know where I was going. It kind of puts different perspective on, what are you doing with your life? And so I took a factory job with my dad. We were making windshields, auto glass.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, this isn't for me. Like, at the time making probably good money, this was early 2000, I guess. I can't do this the rest of my life. So started going back to school part-time. Couldn't afford my rent in Ottawa, even at that time. And my buddy Goran, still a great friend of mine today, he was a summer student with Frito-Lay. And he said, you should work for Frito-Lay. We drive a truck and merchandise chips. And I thought, oh, okay, merchandise chips. That sounds like a pretty good gig. And anyway, so he got me an interview, realized it was a little bit more sales focused than just putting chips on the shelf. They called it a route sales rep at the time. I got the job and immediately fell in love with it. One, the fact that I got to work with chips. There was a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, selling for display and merchandising and driving a truck, which at that time was pretty cool. And then discovering, like, Frito-Lay owns Lay's and Ruffles and Miss Vicky's and Fritos and Cheetos and Smart Food. And you're like, oh my God, this is all one big company. And that was a revelation itself too. So anyway, when you love a job and you love, kind of what you're doing and the products that you're working with, things your career kind of jumps pretty quickly, and naturally, right? So I was promoted several times. It moved me to Toronto, got into accounts. I was calling on regional accounts in Ontario, and then I had a national desk there. And then, the further up kind of I was going, it was like, okay, Alicia and I were dating at the time. And, we had, kind of going back to this whole introduction of natural foods with Kettle brand chips.
Yeah.
We were starting to pay a little bit more attention to what we were consuming at home. And that may not have been, necessarily connecting with the products we were selling at the time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of, Alicia moved into natural foods first. She went to a company, Nature's Path, and kind of that opened an opportunity for me to jump in. And I worked for a company called Guru, which is an organic energy drink.
Mm-hmm.
Also a great product. I was there early days, Guru.
They were a rocket ship as well. They took over. Yeah.
Yeah. They were still earlier days when I was there, still on just grabbing distribution. I was helping them do that. But I think they were still trying to figure out kind of what they needed to do. And looking at them now, they obviously kind of stepped back and made some really good, smart choices.
Yeah.
And then Amplify came calling and took that product on. And Skinny Pop was an incredible brand.
Yeah.
I think they had just got into Costco in Canada. And I think Fortino's had just brought them in here within Ontario. And there was just a regional distributor. And it was just like, you could just tell it was just primed to go.
Yeah.
Right. And so I met with those guys and it was just like, tier one organization already. Like, the people they had that they brought along, coming from larger companies, they knew what they were doing and they had this incredible product. So did that, basically grew the Skinny Pop business, launched Pocky into Canada because they had just acquired it. And then through more acquisitions, Omega, which is grass-fed whey protein bar, bought Tyrrell's, which is a kettle cooked potato chip out of the UK. So there's just a lot of snacks coming at us.
Yeah.
And then we got acquired by Hershey. And as with all, those acquisitions, eventually they end up rolling back into the mothership, right? And
And usually end up
So,
hurting the brand after, yeah.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm not here to
You don't
say
have to say that. You don't have to say that, but yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I stuck around for a bit, and then it just got to a point of, it was just the decision was to stay or to come along with Hershey. I just wasn't in to go. We parted ways on good terms, and I wish those guys good luck. And that gave Alicia and I the opportunity to start on Humble.
Yeah,
And that's
it,
been
it,
that's
it,
been its own
it's
ride.
an amazing, like we joked about this with Alicia. Like, I've never met two people with such perfect backgrounds to start a very specific company. Like, it's kind of wild. So that it's like, how early on this thought process start of doing something like this? Because I mean, you both have incredible experience, both in like traditional CPG with like the biggest salty snack company in the world. Then, you both go into sort of more natural space, still in snacking, but
Yeah.
Alicia more into meals and stuff too, but a lot of snacking.
Yeah.
And it's like so now you've got the huge CPG experience, you've got the natural experience, and then you create this brand that is sort of a mix of the two that at the exact right time. So it's like it truly meant to be.
Yeah, so Alicia was there with K-Pasta, and when she was on the broker side, she helped Hardbite, Kettle, those guys get to national distribution as well. So she's quite versed in the snack world in itself.
Yeah.
It's when you're in the aisle, you're always thinking about it. Like I said, it's one thing or the other. But the one consistent theme that came up every time we shopped the aisle, every time we would bring snacks home was, why is nobody doing an organic or even just a natural, like non-GMO version of a light and crispy flat potato chips, which the benchmark would be Lay's, right?
Yeah.
And that had been a conversation we had probably like almost soon after we left Frito-Lay in 2012. Like when we started really paying attention, going to Whole Foods stores as consumers, and then of course, with the sales, kind of hat on. And it was like everything was kettle cooked chips everywhere. And we didn't understand at the time
true, yeah.
why, more recently. And anyway, and we kind of like, well, kind of like almost like you joke with your buddies, but like Alicia and I would joke like, well, if we ever start a company, it'll be an organic version of this, like that kind of thing. And then, that kind of time passed and forever. And then our son was born 6 years ago, Wilder, and you put a different set of sunglasses on, or just a different lens opens up for you, right? When you have kids, start thinking about the future, start thinking about, beyond your lifespan and what you're leaving behind. And one thing is, we felt good about being in the organic or natural food industry with the ingredients of the snacks or any of the products that we were bringing to market, but everything was plastic this, plastic that. And I'm not pointing fingers at any of my old employers. It's just the way that food is consumed, well, globally, but especially North America, and we get to the point of like, we're packaging plastic within plastic, right? It was like, we got 6 small bags of chips, all wrapped in plastic in a bigger bag of plastic. And it was like, it just got to a point of, it just became really, like, it started to hit you in the face, like, hey, maybe we could do better on some of that, right?
Yeah.
And then we were there for the Sun Chips compostable launch circa 20, and I'm not even sure. 2011.
Feels like feels like they were so ahead of the times with that.
Yes.
And then it just didn't take off. Like,
there's
I'm eating one right now.
As you're eating your Sun Chips Harvest Cheddar. I remember like that product was growing significantly, a big part of the Frito-Lay growth plans when we were there. Sun Chips and Ms. Vicky's both were, kind of on that upwards trajectory. A lot of marketing dollars going into both brands. And then they thought, hey, let's launch this compostable packaging, which again, hearing about it more recently from some of the folks that were on that project, the packaging just wasn't right, and I think the company, to their credit, took a chance on it. Like it's hard to really fault them for it. Like I'm not going to fault them for trying. I think it's great. And it's the same reason we tried, and we've had packaging fails, pre-launch and since launch, and we've continued to adapt. I was a little disappointed when they gave up on it together, right?
Yeah.
And I understand, there's a consumer. The consumer was giving up on the brand and losing some confidence, and the sales were suddenly going downhill. But it was, I wish they would have persevered and kind of went through. But here we are. And I'm sure they're working on their compostable packaging and getting coming back around on it as well. But yeah, it's so we were there for that. And so it's like, well, hey, if it was possible 10 years ago,
Yeah.
or like I'm sure the technology's improved. And the answer to that is it had improved slightly for sure. The cost was, a big barrier. So anytime we said like, hey, let's do this organic potato chip in compostable packaging, it all kind of came back to, well, I don't know if people are going to spend $6 to $7 on a bag of chips. Now, here we are, in 2023, and all the bags in the grocery store cost $6 or $7.
That's so true. No one would ever pay that, they said. Yeah, here we are.
Here we are. Exactly. But anyway, so it just, things kind of aligned. And I think there's always this idea. And then Alicia had reached out to some farmers. The farmer reached back out and said, hey, I could grow your potatoes. And so that opened up the conversation. I remember, my last day signing off at Amplify Snack Brands, which was becoming the Hershey Company at the time. And it was a Friday morning, and I did the last of my see you guys later, emails and all this. And I shut my laptop down. I was going to the UPS store or whatever it was to send my laptop back. Got that done, had the rest of the day ahead of me, and Alicia and I went for a walk. And I was like, okay, like it was kind of like this, like, okay, we're moving on. And like the sun was kind of coming out. Or it was kind of like this really weird serendipitous moment of, well, what's next? Right. And Alicia's like, awesome. Well, I'm excited. It's going to be, who knows what the future is. And we kind of said, well, maybe we'll play with that potato chip idea. And I was like, yeah, maybe I will. I'll start making some calls and see if it's a viable business. Anyway, we get back later that evening. We had dinner. We put Wilder down. And then we got a message on Facebook Messenger from the farmer that Alicia had reached out to like 2 years prior.
Wow.
And it was like, hey, love to grow your potatoes. And she kind of just looked at me. She's like, are you kidding me?
The sign. Yeah.
Like it just kind of like slapped me. Like you gotta do this. Like now we got to do this. Anyway, and so Monday morning I got opened up a new laptop and I was like, well, how do I start a potato chip business? How do you do it? Like, you work for CPG companies and, I was in sales most of my career. And when you work for smaller companies, you get better perspective of, how the organization runs. There's no doubt about it because you're closer to it. But I was like, well, I need potatoes. We need seasoning. And I guess obviously we need to fry it in oil. And then, well, either we need to buy equipment or we need to hire somebody to make the product. Oh, and, we got to do this in compostable packaging. So I got to find somebody that is certified compostable, has a viable product. I just started picking up the phone, sending emails, just like one door closed, another one would open up. And they were like, this is, when was this? 2021. So still like pandemic times, right? People weren't getting out, weren't meeting quite yet.
Perfect time to start a company. Yep.
Right. And yeah, it was just like, well, we don't sell organic seasonings and we can't make your seasoning blends because they're not certified organic, but maybe call these guys down the street. I think they do organic. And it was kind of that mentality of, not just with seasoning and like some of our other products. And it's like, no, we can't supply that much, organic oil for you, but maybe call these guys. And like, I was a little surprised, people were offering up their competitors referrals, like just go call these guys. And I think within 3 or 4 months, we signed the potato contract without having any distribution, which was a wild, like, I guess we're in now. Like we signed up for the crop of potatoes.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, if anything, we own 1.5 million pounds potatoes. So, either we start making chips or shepherd's pie, like something's got to give here, right? And so that's kind of it all. It just kind of went from there. And it was just like, we got somebody to make a batch recipe. Ray Woody did, and he helped us out. And then we started. I was driving to like buyers' houses, right? Because everyone was working from home.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'd be going to, and one buyer I knew from Loblaws, and she was in Orangeville, and this person was here, and then I'd be driving around, and I'd have my mask on.
Yeah.
I'd be ringing the doorbell, like still social distancing. This was a weird time, and just dropping off like literally like a paper bag of potatoes that we had made. And that's kind of how it went, and did the same. Dropped it off at Whole Foods, dropped some off at Unify, and kind of everyone got like a batch of test samples. And then I think, I think the chips were good. And then I think there was also a lot of trust built up from our relationships, Alicia and I, that we had, obviously our careers, selling them Skinny Pop or Nature's Path or Amy's or any of the products that we've, touched on over the years, right? So yeah, it was just kind of all of a sudden, it was like, hey, these chips are good. Let's have a meeting. And like 12 hours later, I was on a Zoom call with Whole Foods and signed up on the spot. And he's like, when do you have a viable product? Like, when can I see the packaging? I was like, okay, goodness gracious. Like, I got to sign that deal with that co-man.
Yeah, no, yeah, almost too fast. It's like, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
anyway, so then, so we so we had a product. Like we had like suddenly demand. We had picked,
Yeah.
got the demand there. And so we, made the arrangements. We did some test runs with our co-man. Alicia told you like our first run of packaging
The
was
problems with that. Yeah.
not great. And so it was just like, there was the ups and downs and the stress, right? Like we put our own money into it, and then we
course,
started
yeah.
raising funds from investors and like it became real very quickly. It became real. But anyway, we got it into the market January 2022.
And since you've
yeah.
yeah, and since you've gotten it in, I mean, I think whenever you're delivering a bag, like a brown paper bag of a product to a buyer's house,
Yes.
and they try it and go, yes, I want that. That's a really good tasting product. Right? Like if you can do that, because not very many products would pass that test.
Yeah, and that was all. Two people that were almost exclusively responsible for that. Outside of just Alicia and I just having the idea, was one, our brother-in-law Reiner, because he helped create the recipes for the seasoning.
Yes.
So that was a key component. And then Ray Woody, who is the owner of Ray Woody's Craft Chippery, and if he's in KW, like Kitchener Waterloo area,
Yeah.
so and he's got like more like a restaurant style potato chip eatery kind of place. So you'd go into his restaurant and he's making potato chips like right there in the restaurant, and he would serve them almost like nachos, or he would season them as you need. He's got all kinds of seasoning. They wouldn't be organic or everything, but yeah. So and he helps make our first batch of humble potato chips.
It's awesome.
So yeah, so if it wasn't for those two, Chef Reiner and Ray Woody, we wouldn't have those paper bag potato chips.
That's amazing. And maybe just quickly, like, where can people find your products now? I saw the exciting news about Whole Foods USA. Congratulations. That is freaking amazing. So happy for you. And like, where else? Yeah, not an exhaustive list because we'll be here all day, I think, because you're in that many stores. But what are some of the big ones that people go find your products at?
Yeah, so the first retailers that brought us on were Whole Foods here in Canada. The sweet potato was actually the first retailer that had us on shelf in Toronto. A tremendous amount of natural food partners, from Goodness Me, Choices, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but the natural food channel has been a big support, and we really appreciate them. Loblaws banners, so that's including of Market, Zare would be a big supporter regionally around here for us. Real Canadian Superstore, and then of course Quebec, Provigo, Maxi, etc. As of last summer, we're in most Sobeys and Safeway stores within Canada. We're in IGA in Quebec, and then Metro in Quebec, and very soon Metro in Ontario. So I would say a good amount of stores within Canada. We were pretty conservative with the US at first. There was demand coming for an organic potato chip in compostable packaging. We'd get emails, asks all the time. So we did kind of a test market in 2 unified DCs in the Northeast, just kind of Northeast, North Atlantic area. And then we were in touch with Whole Foods from the beginning because Rob Luscombe, who's I think he's a director now at Whole Foods Canada, and he kind of referred us into the US. He goes, this is something my partners in the US would get behind, might be interested in. So thanks to Rob, we got an introduction, and then we started having conversations with Adam and then David Lafferty, who's a VP of merchandising as well. They came to see us at CHFA West in Vancouver, and then that's where that conversation started. But we were early, we weren't ready, and it took us probably, we started that conversation April 2022. Actually, probably just before CHFA, but and now we're launching July 2023. So a bit part of a year and a half, which, maybe that's quick, maybe that's not, I don't know, but it takes a while to get into secure a Whole Foods US business. And but anyway, so that's our distribution. So in grocery stores, obviously in the natural food department, that's where you'll find us, anywhere from 4 to 5 flavors.
Awesome. I love it. And And maybe we just like quickly double down on like the reasons that people should buy them. We talked about them being delicious and the flavor
Yep.
profiles. We talked a little about the compostable packaging and organic. Anything else you want to highlight with them?
It is a clean ingredient, light and crispy potato chip. So I think sometimes people are a little tired of potato chips being overly crunchy, overly oil saturated, which sometimes happens with cow cooked products. There's a lot more oil that holds on to the potato. And, they're trying to make it crunchier, right? And some people just aren't really into that texture or that particular, experience. So if you want something that's light and crispy, but still packs a good, powerful flavor punch with clean ingredients, and you want to get behind a Canadian company that's family owned, that's Humble Potato Chips. We're there for you.
We're there for you. I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I think that it's one of those categories that, I mean, I gotta imagine 99% of people like chips, right? And what they don't like is like how unhealthy they are for you. So when you have a better for you chip that they can still enjoy that experience, and that's I think why people are gravitating towards it so much.
For sure. And I think we have, it's interesting, right? Because the household penetration on a snack bag, like you said, probably almost 100%. A lot of people are doing it. But we've also really hit a nerve with consumers that have said, hey, like I've been really paying attention to our sustainability at home and trying to reduce plastics.
Yeah.
And so we just stopped bringing chips into the house. And I was like, okay, like, and they're like, so thank you. Like I can buy your chips and feel good that I can put them in the green bin, or I can put them in my home compost, and they're going to turn into dirt. And that's great. So now we're back because, making my own chips is not easy. So
yeah.
And then we had people that, are, to what I said, like they love the texture that it is, a clean ingredient version, of the global largest potato chip brand, and then there's people that, would stack it up and say, hey, this is a great potato chip brand. And it's from Guelph, it's a local company and it's a family run business. And I can get behind that. I think we did a lot of sampling and demos in stores, like ourselves, Alicia, myself, Dan, who's our sales manager, Alicia's brother, my brother. And, we'd say, yeah, we're just from Guelph. It's like, wait a second, you're the owner of the company? It's like, yeah, I'm doing a demo. And they're like, so you are the company? I was like, yeah, well, like myself and my wife and my brother-in-law, like there's 3 of us. And they're like, but hold on, like you're not like a demo staff. I was like, no, like, we do have, sometimes we have to hire demo staff too. And I was like, okay, like they can put a face to the brand.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, so where are you from? And then they're looking, it says Guelph, Ontario on the back of the bag. It's like, well, 40 minutes. Like they can just, they visualize it. It's a tangible thing. It's not a company. It's a person, behind it. It's family run. And I think a lot of people really like that. There's certainly, there's lots of talk about local and supporting local. But I think just like people understanding where food comes from, I think is really big right now. And so when you can say, hey, our potatoes are grown an hour and a bit north of Toronto, and then they are made in Mississauga, 20 minutes out of Toronto or the next town, for a family run business that's based 45 minutes west of Toronto. I'm using Toronto as a benchmark because, just so everyone knows where it is. Yeah, like, it's a local product. Like, that's the story. Like, it's not big company, big this, and ingredients, that we don't know and can't pronounce. It's pretty simple. It's potatoes, it's sea salt, and it's organic oil. And that's Humble Original in compostable bags that go away. They don't just degrade into microplastics. They turn into dirt. Yeah. And we can repurpose that soil, and it can go back to the farm or wherever it needs to go, your home garden or whatever it is. And I think that it's a story it's hard for us to tell, right? It's because it's long. It's not something that's a catchy slogan, or can be summarized in a catchy slogan. But I think people, when they hear that, and that's why we love to demo, and like myself, Alicia, and Dan, and we're the ones telling the story, people are like, oh, okay, get it. I get behind that, right? And that makes sense, or we start talking. There's multiple angles on Humble that I think it's that, one, it's purposeful that we're very, like, the product is not confusing. It's potato chip, right? I think that's the thing is, like, if we were to launch some snack that was, I don't mean to,
just so different that people that weren't used to, right?
There's a lot of different snacks right now, especially in the natural space, and it's almond flour extruded puffs or whatever it is. And that's great. And it's the paleo this and all that. And those are great products as well. But like, I think it's kind of niche, and like our product is like straightforward. It's potato chips. It's a light and crispy product. It's just like the number one selling product in the world of snacks.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. It comes clean ingredient. It's organic, family run business. Oh, and by the way, it's compostable, right? And I think that's why I think we have a chance to really do something. It's the product is straightforward. And I think some teaching and some adoption and education on the compostable packaging side needs to happen, and we're working on it. But yeah, so hopefully it's got a chance to do something.
Yeah, I love that. And as someone that has sort of like, I don't know, plastic or packaging guilt, because, you know, I spent a decade pushing products in plastic. I think what you're doing is very admirable. And I think, like, you know, you having a 6-year-old child, and I think about this with my 4-year-old child too, is like, how can you use some of your skills that you've developed over your career to just make a little bit of difference, right? And I think what you're doing is more than a little bit. It's a huge difference. And so it's very, very exciting, and also like just admirable. Yeah.
I think so. This all started too when Alicia and I worked for other companies. We asked the question, right? You know, I remember specifically asking a question to one of my former employers, like, what are we doing about packaging? And this is, you know, many years before Humble launched, and kind of like, this is, again, no slight on anyone, but you know, the kind of the VP of marketing or whoever it was at the time, it was like, yeah, like nothing, like it's like, and not like as in like we don't care about the environment, but like it was kind of like, well, we don't know what to do. It's not in our, you know, 5-year, you know, plan or whatever. And okay. And, you know, and honestly, consumers don't know about it. Why should we why should we be first? It's kind of idea, right? And I think it's, you know, I wish companies didn't think like that. And I think now they are starting to think, well, you know, what are we going to do packaging? But I think if so, you know, and a little ignorant to who all listens to this podcast, but I assume it's a lot of industry folks. You know, I think if you're working for a company, either if you're an entrepreneur or just working for a company, I think we should be asking those questions to our employers.
Yeah.
You know, hey, what are we doing about this? You know, how can we do this better? Or, you know, bring ideas to the teams or to the companies you work for. I think that's our responsibility to do. And then, you know, and on the consumer piece, what we also found out with launching this product is everybody is looking to do better. Like, I think they are. I think, you know, for the most part, you know, I think most of us have kind of gone, okay, climate change is real. You know, the Gulf of Mexico was on fire last year. Like there's a problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Northern Ontario and Quebec, like,
this year,
everything going on. So I think we're all kind of like, okay, like something's got to give, you know, what can I do? And I think people are a little stuck. You know, what can I do? They don't know what to do. Well, I only have so many options. So I think when we presented them with as a potato chip in compostable packaging, it's like, oh, fantastic. I can just buy this product and just switch, you know, from this conventional plastic product to this compostable product. And
it's easy.
People are looking for small things they can do that are easy for them to make changes to their lifestyle, you know, for their family, for the betterment of the planet. And then that makes them feel good that they're doing
absolutely.
And that builds, right? It builds momentum within the household and within their family unit. And then they start telling somebody else, you know, hey, well, that's, you know, here's what we're doing is, you know, we're reusing our glass bottles and we're going to the shop and putting shampoo in it or whatever it is. Like there's all kinds of different ways that we're doing things that are going to help us, you know, kind of move away from conventional plastics and whatnot. But it's all around us. Like it's hard to be saying, hey, my family's plastic free. Like I don't think anyone can say that.
I think it'd be possible. Yeah.
But I think everyone's looking for something to do to help them along. And I think if more companies are giving them options, I think it'll start to build. And hopefully it builds quick and we start to move a little faster. But at least we're moving in the right direction. Incredibly
well said. Yeah, I think that most people are. I think some of these challenges are so overwhelming that people are like, analysis paralysis, almost like they don't know what to do, right? So if you present them the option, they'll pick the thing that they can feel good about, that is better for themselves, better for the planet, like they will pick that choice. But it's just, is it available, and how much, and do I have to sacrifice? They don't want to sacrifice, right? They want it to taste just as good. They want it. So if you can do that for them, then the decision becomes easy to grab your chips, right? Because they're not sacrificing anything and they can feel good about it, which is a great combo.
It's really the key. And even as we were selling organic and better for you products, so packaging aside, people are not willing to concede on
it's still food, right? It's still food.
You know, like okay, it's better for me and it's cleaner ingredients and it's, it doesn't have any artificial flavors and chemicals or, whatever, it's gluten free or whatever it is. It needs to taste good,
Yeah.
right? It does. Like it's
Yeah.
that's just like kind of like foundationally, like baseline, it needs to taste good. And then you go, right? So yeah, that's important. And it's, so for us, it's been, equally important that we figured out this compostable packaging thing because that's been evolving over the last couple of years to a good state of where we're at now with a great composition. But also, like, we are continually looking at our product and in the seasonings, and we optimize it to give more flavor. How do we, certainly make it with less sodium, but also taste more delicious, and the thickness of the chip. All of those things are always on the table and always under. The experience is still going to be, oh, does this taste good, or does, do I just go back to conventional chip that's in plastic packaging? Right. So that's the burden that we have too. It's like it better be good because otherwise people are going to
You're right.
compostable bags.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They have a bad we saw that with some of like the vegan meat, right? That people tried and it didn't stand up and now they're not going to go back, right? And now if new products come out that are amazing, they might not go back because they had a bad experience. So you're right. There is a burden there of like the product needs to deliver and you're leading that charge in this area. So that is a burden, but I think you guys are doing an incredible job of it. So I don't have any concerns there at all.
I appreciate that.
Yep. We talked a lot about chips at the beginning of the conversation and different snacks that you had, throughout your life. And I love that because I think like your food journey is part of your own life and like it shapes who you are as a teen, as an adult, what you're giving your child, throughout and what you do for a living as well. And it has for me as well. But outside of sort of the snacking space, because you have so much like direct work experience in snacking, what is like brand out there that you're looking at and going, wow, these guys are crushing it. They're doing something truly amazing. And we've had a guest say your brand actually.
Oh, wow.
So I'm curious to hear what yours is.
Well, that's humbling. Obviously, no pun intended there for someone to say that. So thank you to that person. A brand I really admire and love what they're doing is Tony's Chocolonely. Chocolate bar brand, confection brand. And their whole thing is, and I love how direct they are. And they're saying, we're trying to eliminate, the unfair, labor standards with harvesting chocolate. And, that goes really deep, obviously on a social, economic, racial piece. There's a lot to unwrap there. And, and they're doing it, on the foundation of this incredible tasting chocolate bar. That's, I would say, well, it's fair trade certified, but I think it goes beyond what they're doing is they're also just trying to expose kind of, how harmful the supply chain is in cocoa and in chocolate. So love that brand. It's near and dear to me for a couple of reasons. One is although I'm a savory snack guy, I have developed quite a sweet tooth over the years as I've aged. They're a brand out of the Netherlands, and I was born in the Netherlands, so fellow Dutch company, I could get behind that. And their packaging is really cool. It's fun. It's retro with the fonts, Tony's, this and that on it. So great colors. So there's a lot to like about that product line, especially what they get behind. And I think as far as like a marketing and how they go about it, really admire it. They're very bullish about it. They admit I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. I think that, and I don't want to speak for them, but like they basically have like a scorecard that they're publishing to their consumers. Like, hey,
I love
80% there, to, exposing our supply chain, all this to get to, a standard of labor practices and trade that they feel they're comfortable with. And so that's a company I could get behind for sure.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that. Like a lot of companies talk about transparency. I think a public scorecard is like that's the next level of transparency. That's super cool.
I think it's honest, like, we're organic and compostable, but like, we can do much better as a company too. And I think we need to be honest about how we can improve, right? Like we're looking at things now. So, in the spirit of being honest. So like all of our pallets are wrapped in like plastic wrap.
Yes.
That's how we have to ship everything. And it's just like, okay, well, what can we do about that?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Our bags are compostable, but then, we're shipping our products like this. Like it doesn't make sense, right? So so we're not perfect either. And, but I think we just need to start challenging. We start asking questions, pressure our vendors like, hey, like, do you have something that's a little bit more sustainable? And,
Yeah.
so we're looking at companies that are, paper-based wrap, and is that something we can use? And so we're testing all kinds of different things like that. Yeah. So that's kind of my other thought on Tony's was it's humbling. Like we're doing
Yeah.
great and we're moving this forward and we're pushing the boundaries, but also we know we're not perfect and here's where we're at on our goals.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I
cool.
love that. That's so cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some of that for sure.
Yeah.
And then, you've been gracious with your time. So last question, and we'll let you
Mhm.
go and enjoy your evening and eat some chips before bed. But
Yeah.
last question for you is you've given advice throughout the conversation. I think some fantastic advice about asking questions and challenging the status quo. And
Mhm.
if you were to talk to, yourself 10 years ago, or somebody else that was, early in their CPG career or wanting to get involved to be a founder, like what type of advice would you give them to be successful? Something that you've learned along the way.
To be a founder, is that like
Yeah, to be a founder or even to work in big CPG. Like if you wanted a career in this type of space, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, one thing that always, this is hard, right? If you're working in big CPG, I think most of the companies now are conditioning their employees to, I hate to use this terminology, but like kind of march the way that they're asking you to go. Like, and I think it's important that we stop doing that. I think it's important. And I think a lot of the more progressive companies are reacting to this and I think adopting this too. But like we need to start challenging the status
Yeah.
quo, start challenging the way we always do things.
Yeah.
Well, why do we always give this trade rate? Well, because this. We know it's like, oh, okay, like, why don't we do
Yeah.
it this way? So I'm really a big believer in trying new things, challenging status quo ideas. Don't do things just because of just for the benefit of, well, this is the way it's always been. And, I've been here 25 years and this is the way it is, and I think hopefully that person, I can hire somebody because I'm, a little bit more mature in my career now. Hopefully I can hire somebody that's going to challenge me in the next couple
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Jeff, why are we doing this at Humble Snacks? I'm like, well, this is the way we've been doing it, since we launched the company. And then they can say, well,
Yeah.
what if we do it this way? And hopefully I'm responsive enough and, to listen to that. And that's the person I want to be. But that's, I think I would give that
Yeah.
offering. And I think that's very, maybe just general advice, but like, I think it's just always be cynical, always be critical. I think it's important. I think it makes the companies we work for better. I think it makes you sharper,
Yeah.
more well-rounded when we're looking at things more holistically. I think it's important.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like the curiosity or the creativity that like a child has, right? Like my son will ask me why, and I'll answer just this. I go, why?
Yeah.
And I gotta say something else,
this.
and why? And it's like, well, that's just the way it works. But why?
Yeah.
I don't know. And like you start to go down that path, and it's like, yeah, why are we actually doing this? I think the phrase "we've always done it that way" is one of the most like dangerous phrases that exists at work, right? Because it's just like accepting that we don't really know why, and we're just blindly following it. And it's used a lot, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like, so here's a good experiment. And, depending on who's listening, if you've been at your company for say 10 years and you consider yourself, a little bit of a veteran within your team, maybe, take the person who's been there less than 3 months out for a coffee or a tea or afternoon drink or whatever it is, and ask them for their honest, unfiltered point of view of the company that you both now work for. And listening to someone who's been there 3 months, who is, not emotionally attached yet to the company, and hopefully they're younger because, they'll really be honest with you. I think it's great perspective, for those that have been around a while too. It's like, Mike, this company that we work for is this, and this, and we do this well, and we don't do this well. And, you might be shocked to hear, what that person has to say. And don't discount them because they've only been there 3 months. Actually listen to them because they are probably more honest and more aware of what that truth of that company really is, because they're it's an unbiased point of view at that. They're still new. So I think so anyway,
I love that. I love that. I think that's very specific, tangible advice. I think that's a great idea for anybody listening. So I think that's awesome.
And it's the reasons why Alicia and I have a potato chip business today.
Because
so
if that leads to your entrepreneurial
journey, then Awesome. Good luck to you.
Send Jeff a check. That's what you
No.
guys the advice. Yeah. But no, that's amazing. I think that's fantastic advice. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you spending the time with me here today and chatting through some of your journey. And I loved the conversation with Alicia on the brand, and loved hearing your perspective on it and your story as well. And just like wishing you both just tons of success. I think the brand will continue to be this rocket ship and continue to get more distribution. And, everyone loves it. I know at trade shows, people are going around and eating it like crazy. And hopefully I see you at CHFA East and I can have some. I think we went by last time twice or 3 times by your booth to grab chips, and we were only there one day. So
we're happy to host anyone at CHFA. So we will be there as well. But yeah, look forward to seeing you there. And thank you for having me on. You guys are doing a great job here on the Hearts and Cards podcast. So big avid listener. Keep up the great work, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, have a good rest of your night, and we'll chat soon.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Jeff, talk to you soon. Bye.
Later.
So, Alex, I know that you couldn't make the time to be in this one, but for a guy that, constantly talks about humble, loves eating their chips, I know this one hurt that you couldn't attend, but what do you think?
Oh man, it stinks. Aside from the fact you guys were eating all sorts of great chips on that call, and I had mine ready. Yes, they are gone now, but I had mine ready. It was just a great conversation. Like I think with how I felt after we had the first meeting with Alicia, so I just think it's such an impressive brand.
Yeah.
I love the challenger mentality, and I think Jeff really, really conveyed that again. And I love this general humility, I know, that they bring to what is a really hard problem, right? Like solving the plastic waste problem and end of life for consumables is not an easy thing. And I loved the authenticity of being like, this is where we're not perfect, and we need to continue to challenge. But at the same time, it would be so easy to just say, let's not try and be better.
Yeah.
And I think that piece was super, I find that really inspiring. I think their overall business is inspiring. I do love the honey Dijon, Jeff. I'm torn as to whether I like the dill or the honey Dijon more. So we'll call it a tie for me. But yeah, aside from making great products, doing great things for pushing our industry forward, right? Like I'm a huge fan of that. And I thought there was just lots of other great nuggets in there. I will do his end advice as well, which, because I caught myself. I am actually that person who's 10 years in a company. And I said something the last 6 months where I said, we've always done it that way. And I heard it come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to, well, I heard it. I mean, I guess that's saying something, but yeah, it's funny how that happens. Right. So, I'm going to take that exercise of going out with, someone who's early in the company, ideally someone with a little bit of CPG already and in their background, and just see what they think, because I think that just opens your eyes to things you're not seeing. But overall, Jeff, sad I missed it. I'm sad I missed you at CHFA. I love what you guys do. Thank you for making delicious chips. I don't know, Justin, anything you want to layer on there?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the world of Jeff and Alicia and what they're doing in the product. And I talked to a few different people at CHFA about just what I really enjoy about this podcast is meeting some of these people. There's products that we like and consume, and Humble potato chips, of course, fall into that category. It's something that I enjoyed before I met them. And then after meeting them, both of them, like I just love the brand and love what they're doing. And just, they're such great people that I just wish them a ton of success. And it makes me want to support them even more. So it's great when you have a product that's delicious, that's better for the environment, that's a little bit healthier for you. And then the people behind it are just so humble, of course, like the name, and just so wonderful. And you just wish nothing but the best for them. So Huge thank you to Jeff for being on the show. Thank you to Alicia for being on the show previously. And I think in the future, we got to get a joint episode with both of them on. What do you think?
It's a must do. It's a must do.
It's a must do. Then it'd be 4 of us eating chips, which will be a lot of crunches, but it's what it is.
We'll have to upgrade our microphones, get that full 4D experience for our listeners.
Yeah, for sure. But really, really great chat and just loved getting to know him better and getting to know the business a little bit better. So a lot of fun. If you're still with us, thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to, be a customer of ours and enjoy our product. We really appreciate you for listening. Please remember to give us those 5-star reviews, like, subscribe, follow us on social. And, if you have any questions, comments, things you'd like to see different, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.